Hey everyone, it's Lance from Christianity Minute. There are some things in the Bible that just aren't relevant anymore to our day-to-day living, but we should be seeking to know about them. The problem is that some people still think that every piece of the Bible is still in effect. This creates strife among the world and fuels argument that the Bible maybe contradicts itself. For example, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8 says to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. But Acts 20 and 7 says that the saints were gathered together to meet on the first day of the week. Well, Jesus rose on Sunday, and that day is kept by Christians. But the tablets of stone, written on by the hand of God himself, says to keep the Sabbath day, Saturday, as holy. Can you see where the conflict can occur? Someone who is just learning about Christianity can be terribly confused by this, and understandably so. In fact, many Christians have been in the church for many years are led astray by people who point out these supposed inconsistencies. And these members have not been properly educated or built up so that they can be led astray by these ideas. In this case, in a large number of other supposed contradictions, we have to understand that the Bible covers 3 different religions, all ordained and authorized by God for different times and for different people. First, we look at the patriarchal law. This is the first religion in the Bible that spans from the beginning of time up until the law of Moses. Now, there's no real written text for this law, and what we know of it is only what's recorded in the Bible. This time is hallmarked by God delivering messages directly to individuals or through priests appointed by God himself. A few examples are, say, when God spoke and interacted directly with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, giving them a law not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. We can also see when God spoke to Noah about impending disaster in Genesis chapter 6, verse 13. We can see the promises given to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 13. And God speaking through Moses, leading the nation of Israel out of Egypt in the book of Exodus, right up until the Jewish law was given. All throughout this time, the religion existed, and it had some form of laws and requirements which were not written down. But there would have been some structure in place since there actually were priests at this time, as we can see in Genesis chapter 14, 18 through 24, whom Abraham had given sacrifice to and received instruction from. This is Melchizedek, the priest for God, also the king of Salem. It's likely that God spoke directly still to some peoples in the Gentile world, but the Bible turns its focus exclusively on the Jewish peoples, so that we likely have 2 religions running at the same time, oversaw by God. But the Gentile people, just as the people before the flood did not heed God's words, these turned to false gods. The law of Moses and the writings of the judges and the prophets is the second religion that we see in the Bible, more commonly referred to as Judaism. Judaism was based on the written laws given to Moses by God himself. The first part of the law, the 10 Commandments, were written directly by God on the tablets of stone and were destroyed and placed in the Ark of the Covenant. Then they were recreated by Moses, and the law of Moses was written by Moses as it was dictated by God. It was to be the religious principles forever, as alluded to in Exodus chapter 12, verse 14. But we understand the word forever to mean as long as it takes to complete. We then can see the judges assisting the Jewish people in the book of Judges and the prophets in the rest of the Old Testament up until John the Baptist. Now, all the things from the prophets from the time of Moses up till the New Testament would be binding, but still harmonious with the law of Moses. One prophet puts it best, I think, when describing that there would be an end of the forever law of Moses. As we look at Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34, it says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand, bringing them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And no longer shall each one teach his neighbor and each his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. I think that this makes it pretty clear, even contemporaneously, that there was something to come. The Jews were to be looking for a Messiah, one that would restore the kingdom of God. Unfortunately, many thought that this meant a physical kingdom that would reign forever, and some Jews are still waiting for that which will never come. Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20, he said, Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, that fulfillment of the Jewish law was him being nailed to the cross as described in Colossians chapter 2, verses 13 and 14. And it says, And you who were dead in your trespasses and the circumcision of your flesh, God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses, by canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. When Jesus was nailed to the cross, the old law had been fulfilled, and salvation for sins was granted, through the grace of God, contingent only upon obedience. When this happened, and we see the first gospel sermon in Acts chapter 2, a new third religion was born as the apostles started to spread it. It was first described as simply the way from Acts chapter 19, verse 9. But we see the new name first being used in Antioch in Acts 11:26, Christian. The Christian religion follows the teachings and standards of Jesus and continues with the acts and the writings of the apostles, these men that were chosen and endowed with spiritual gifts, to confirm what they were saying came from God. If the patriarchal period continued with the Gentiles, it would have ended with the third and final religion of the Bible, Christianity, because all peoples were invited to follow Christ equally. Now, some may say that because there are three religions in the Bible, that something's wrong with that. But I want to point out that when these religions were active, it was exactly what the people needed at the time to bring forth salvation from their sins. God is alive and directs the steps of men, whether they choose to follow those steps or not. But because God is alive, so is the religion of God. And it evolves and changes with the times to be what we know today and what we call Christianity. Judaism does not exist in the time of Christendom, so no conflict exists. The patriarchal law and Judaism were never to intermingle, so no conflict existed. The patriarchal law and Christendom, they don't exist together, so no conflict exists. Always check your references. Have a deeper understanding of the Bible. Study more so that these kind of traps won't give opportunity to the devil to put evil doubt into your mind. Let your doubt instead lead to curiosity, to understand more, because there is more to understand. And with that curiosity, thanks for watching, because that's been your Christianity Minute for this week. I always work very hard to make sure that all things said are scripturally accurate, offer an exegesis, and clearly state any opinions I may have as my own. This series is under oversight of an eldership, but it's not funded by any individual churches, or church. If you would like to assist my efforts to bring you these videos, feel free to support me directly at patreon.com/ChristianityMinute. Please note, I've removed the underscore to try to make it easier to find. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And if there are any things that you would call contradictions in the Bible, post them as well. Let's start a discussion on each and every one. Remember, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Didn't like it? There's that icon too. If you want to see more from me here at Christianity Minute, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon for notifications. I post a new video every Sunday at 6 p.m. and a short devotional video every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 5 a.m. I really look forward to seeing you here again next time on Christianity Minute.